Hello and welcome back to Dead by Daylight 101, a three-part video series I've been working on. In the first part, we went over some basic terminology for the game. In the second part, we played some survivor gameplay. Now we're going to play some killer gameplay. So this is the Trapper. Every killer has their own specific power and ability. The killers are completely different. The Trapper, his ability is to pick up these traps, these bear traps, place them at various points of the map, like so. It is very typical of a Trapper to put them in front of pallets like this. You can also see the auras of the generators. I want to patrol these generators, try and make sure none of them get done. You can also hear various noise notifications. These are typically survivors filling skill checks or doing actions that are very fast. For example, jumping over a window very fast, as I was doing in the previous video as Dwight trying to escape the Trapper. This is Megan. What I want to do is I want to hit her with my weapon. Now notice that once I've injured her, she is now much louder. And she's also leaving scratch marks when she runs. Survivors will leave scratch marks like this when they run, which will make it easier to find them. As a killer, my job is to take a down survivor, put them up onto these sacrificial hooks, like so. Actually, here's what we're going to do. We'll go ahead and reset that trap. Now, as a killer, my job is to make sure these generators don't get done. So what I want to do, if I come up over here, I can damage them. That will stop all progress on the gen, and it will start regressing very slowly up until survivors start working on it again. Now keep in mind, I am playing against bots, so these guys are not going to make the best decisions. They will not make decisions that would be typical of most Dead by Daylight players. I don't want to. I've got a. I don't know why I keep wanting to pick up traps, because I've got one in my hand. What trappers will usually do is they'll try and find spots that will be used by the survivors a lot to try and escape from the killer. For example, when that Claudette was jumping over this window, trappers will typically put a trap right in front of the windows like that. But again, every killer is different. Every killer has their own unique power, so you can't always expect killers' playstyle to be different. Many killers will play completely different from one to the other. And as you can see on the left-hand side of my screen, it shows the status of each survivor, who's injured and who's still uninjured. It also shows how many hooks I've gotten so far. Death from above. Now Dwight here is in the dying state. He will start crawling off. So you guys keep hearing the little explosions and stuff. As I said, that is survivors typically failing the skill checks that was discussed in the last video. Ooh, she got moves. Okay, dropping pallets. That's a typical survivor move. A killer cannot progress past a pallet. They either have to break it or find a way around it. Unless some killers do have an ability to jump over a pallet. That's only one killer at this point in time. We're going to go ahead and pop this gen. And as I said, you want to follow the scratch marks. That's one of the best way to find survivors is to patrol the generators that are not done and to follow scratch marks. You can see that this gen is still degressing because it has low sparks flying from it. That is a visual indicator that the generator is still regressing and no survivor is working on it. As you can see in the lower left-hand corner, they have 2 generators done, or 2 generators to go, I should say. So these survivors are actually doing pretty well for being bots. Now, it is possible for a survivor, if you are carrying another survivor on your shoulder, they will hit you with the pallet and stun you, and that will free the survivor you are carrying. So as a killer, you want to avoid carrying a survivor through a pallet, as I just did. It's typically not a wise move to carry a survivor like that through a pallet. Dwight doing the fast vaults. And we'll take Dwight over to a hook. And then we'll pop this gen right behind him, us. So once again, here we got more scratch marks. That means that someone's been over here. Yep, you notice that it's no longer sparking. That means someone's been working on the generator. In fact, there's a person right there. Now, in a typical game, you would see your perks in the lower right-hand corner. But because this is a tutorial match, you are not allowed to bring in perks. It's basically showing you standard killer and survivor gameplay. As you saw, this is a grab. A survivor or a killer can sometimes interrupt a survivor's actions by grabbing them in the middle of their actions.
Yeah.
I believe there wasn't there another... Oh, I thought I had another trap somewhere around here. That was not placed. So scratch marks, that means another survivor is moving through this area. Yep, there he is, right over there. We'll see if we can't get Dwight to go and hit our trap. I'm going to try and take him into the killer basement. Every map has a killer basement, which is a dangerous place for survivors to try and make a rescue, because there are always 4 hooks down here. There's also always 4 lockers and a chest. That noise notification, that is a survivor being unhooked. And one of them failed a healing skill check. Now what typically happens is that once you have sacrificed a survivor on a hook, that hook is permanently broken and unusable, but the hooks in the basement will always be there for you to sacrifice a survivor. In fact, I will show you a broken hook right now. As you can see, once this survivor is sacrificed, this hook will break and will be unusable. Okay, now the survivor has a couple options. Because she's the last survivor left, she can either try and finish 2 gens by herself and power the exit by herself, or she can try and find a thing called a hatch, which will allow her to escape without having to open up. In fact, you can hear that sound. That is the sound of the hatch. And the survivor, if you are the last survivor alive on the map, the hatch will automatically open, and this will be a means for which you that you can escape. However, the killer has the option of closing the hatch, thus powering up the exit gates, and the survivor can now make a standard escape as if all the generators had been completed. So as a killer, my job is to now find the Claudette before she can escape. It is very easy for a killer to patrol the exit gates because they always see where the exit gates are, whereas the survivors typically have to guess. As you may remember from the last video, when I was playing Survivor and the exit gates were powered, I was not able to see the boxes for the exit gates. Oh, and the Claudette got out. That's fine. And that is Dead by Daylight killer gameplay. Thank you for watching the videos. I hope you liked all of them. If you did like them, please feel free to give them a like. And if you are not currently a subscriber, please feel free to drop a subscription. I would greatly appreciate it. And as always, be sure to catch me on Twitch, twitch.tv/MrWolf1970.